Hey, what's up, guys? Dean Hansen here. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a comparison video, but not so much a comparison as much as a suggestion? Nah, that's a stupid way to put it. Anyway, so we have here the iPhone 6s Plus 64GB version. This is my phone. I bought it when it was released. I've been using it ever since. It's about 8 or 9 months now. And we also have the Oneplus 3 from the company Oneplus, third generation phone. I guess it's their fourth phone because they came out with a Oneplus X as well on the left hand side. And this is also my phone, which I just purchased a week ago with the intent to hopefully replace my iPhone. Now, this video is a comparison video, but it's more focused on, can the OnePlus 3 replace your iPhone if you are an iPhone guy? I'm an iPhone guy. I have been for a while. I wouldn't say I'm a fanboy. I just go towards whatever I think is the best quality. I've switched to Android a couple times, but I always switch back, and I never regret the switch back. So, at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you which phone I've decided to use and which phone I've decided to sell. I've been using the OnePlus 3 for a week now, and I'm going to go over all the things, pros and cons of what to expect if you are an iPhone guy switching to the OnePlus. So first thing, biggest difference by far, is price. So you can see if we just look at build quality, they're actually very similar. They look similar. This is the gold version. This is the black, space gray, or whatever you want to call it. Their build quality is similar. They're both aluminum. The iPhone feels heavier. They have the exact same size 5.5-inch display. They're both 1080p. The OnePlus is AMOLED. The iPhone is LCD. They look the same to me. I think the OnePlus feels a lot better in the hand. It's lighter, it's got a smaller profile, even though they have the same size screen. They're not the same size device. The OnePlus is shorter, and the OnePlus is skinnier. So as you can see there, to get the same screen real estate, you have a smaller, lighter, more balanced phone out of the OnePlus, which I like better. The iPhone 6s Plus is $849 for the 64GB version, and the OnePlus is only $399. You could buy two OnePluses. They don't even charge tax or shipping on their website. You could buy two of these and still have about $100 left over before you could buy one of the iPhones because of taxes. So very, very drastically different in the price range. The OnePlus can do about 90 to 95% of what the iPhone can do in terms of quality. The experience is always going to be a little better on the iPhone, in my opinion. Just overall quality of how consistent the device is. But is it so much better that you're willing to pay twice the price plus $100? That's the question. That's why I bought the OnePlus. I feel like Apple is starting to rip people off a little bit. I feel like they're not competing in the capitalist market of smartphones. Android phones are getting better every year, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper. You can get really good smartphones for $399. The Nexus 6P 64 gigs, $399. The OnePlus 3, the Moto X Pure Edition, the ZTE or whatever, the Axum's $399. Huawei just came out with a $399 phone, the Honor 8. These are all high-end spec, really well-performing Android phones for $400. Apple's not following that. They're getting better every year, but they're not getting cheaper. They're actually getting more expensive. They came out with the Plus versions and charged a $100 premium just so you could have a screen size that's Plus, but is actually very standard. The Moto G is a 5.5-inch screen, 4th gen, and that's a $200 phone, $199 for the exact same screen that this has. So you can't charge a $100 premium for screen. And yeah, you get a little bit better camera. They put optical image stabilization in the camera. Okay, you're paying extra for stuff you shouldn't be paying extra for. I'm not agreeing with Apple on this. Prices are going up on these, going down on these. To me, it feels like it's time for a switch. However, I've been using it for a week. Is it good enough for me to throw away and sell the old iPhone? That's the question we're going to answer here. Let's get into charging. Battery's a huge, huge deal. The OnePlus 3 uses fast charging with a USB Type-C cable. Very solid, very good connection. Very new, very modern, the new thing. No fast charging on the lightning connector of the iPhone. Personally, I actually like the lightning connector as far as just the physical feel of it. It's smaller, it's solid, there's no hole in the middle like there is on the USB cable. It's a very solid, strong, small connection. Perfect. USB Type-C, it's okay. One thing I do like about the OnePlus a lot is the fingerprint scanner is the fastest fingerprint scanner in the world ever, without competition. The fingerprint scanner on this OnePlus unlocks and gets you into your phone with a precision and speed that is absolutely unmatched by anyone. It almost feels like you don't even have it set up, but you can see if I try another finger. Hear it? It is actually checking my fingerprint. It feels like it's not even doing it because it works so well. The iPhone, on the other hand, the scanner works fine. It's just with the graphics and everything, it just takes a little longer, and you don't think that would matter, but it actually is very noticeable right away. It's the thing I noticed most on the OnePlus, and that I love a lot about the OnePlus. OnePlus also has cool notification sounds, as you hear, and the iPhone's old stuff that they've had since the beginning. The operating system, the UI, is very snappy on the OnePlus. 6 gigs of RAM, it has absolutely no problem just screaming through everything you can throw at it. So the UI experience is very snappy on both products, and yeah, you can even see though, as it just because of, maybe it's because of the animation, the iPhone is just kind of slow to react compared to the OnePlus. And then if you click over here, you've got all your open apps, and on the iPhone you got to double click and you got all your open apps. A little bit different on each one. The app grid on the OnePlus is kind of a bummer. You only get 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas on the iPhone you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 4. You can fit significantly more apps on the home screen on the iPhone, and OnePlus does not give you any option to fit more than 16 apps on the screen. However, you notice there's no widgets on the iPhone, and we have these wonderful widgets in the Android world, which you already know that. We don't even need to talk about that, but that's one thing that's good about switching over to the OnePlus is widgets and Android and price. The camera on the OnePlus 3 is about what you would expect. A little bit better than I was expecting because I'm really harsh on Android cameras. But it's not bad. It's totally usable. You can film. I like filming videos with it, and it actually looks pretty good. The optical image stabilization is not that great. You can see my phone doesn't really like to go to sleep for like ever. I bet you I can change that in settings, but it just takes its time. The battery on the OnePlus is, in my opinion, junk. I don't know. A lot of the reviewers are saying it's pretty good. Fuck you. It's not that good. I feel like I can get probably, out of the heavy use I use my phones, when I'm using them to use like an app like Voxer for communication, which I use a lot. Under heavy use, a lot of on screen time, asking it to perform a lot. I feel like the iPhone has probably double the battery life of the OnePlus 3, and I stand by that because over the course of this week I cannot make it through a day on the OnePlus 3 if I'm using it the way I like to use my phone. I could always get home with about 20 to 15% on the iPhone if I was using it as heavy as normal. The OnePlus is never going to get through it. However, it kind of makes up for it because it has fast charging, but I would way rather have a phone that has good battery and slow charging than bad battery and fast charging. They don't equal each other out evenly, in my opinion. The reason a lot of iPhone people like to buy and use iPhones isn't because they're sheep and just following the Apple trend. It's because they perform so well, especially when it comes to apps like Dub Smash, Temple Run, Face Swap, internet browsing. I mean, it's just so solid on an iPhone. The iPhone Plus versions is the best internet browsing ever. I will pull it out of my pocket even when I'm on my computer to do a search because it's just so natural and fast. I think Chrome is jittery and junky, and I know people will disagree with me there, but that's been my experience. Anything that uses the accelerometer is the marriage of hardware to software perfect on Apple. I mean, they've had it right for years. They've had it. An iPod Touch 2nd Gen will perform Temple Run and Dub Smash and games like that and apps like that better than the most top performing Androids of 2016. I promise you that. And that's sad. Now, I hear that if you're buying a Nexus or something that's running very pure stock Android, it'll compete better, but it's still not as good. They're still behind. Podcast is another area where I feel like Android's behind. There's a native podcast app right on the iPhone that works really well, works as expected, and as far as podcasting goes on Android, they built in podcasting into Google Play Music, but it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. You gotta click here, you gotta click here, you gotta click podcast, go to your podcast. You can't even manually add in RSS feeds. That's just not an option, which is ridiculous. If the owner of the podcast hasn't went to Google's website and manually added their podcast to Google Play's podcast, it won't show up, and there's no way for you to add it. So to me, that app is rendered useless. Android renders a lot of apps as useless, in my opinion. Temple Run, Dub Smash, Face Swap, those are all useless apps on Android to me because they don't behave in a way that makes any sense. You can't be playing Temple Run and be doing more than one thing. Android doesn't have the latency, the zero latency required for those types of games, and it's still a problem even with the 820 processor and 6 gigs of RAM. The thing that's funny is the iPhone has significantly lower specs. But, you know, specs aren't everything. I mean, they matter, but people always tend to take out one of the most important things is the efficiency of the OS. You know, your processor is kind of like your horsepower on a vehicle. Your RAM's kind of like the torque on a vehicle. And the operating system efficiency is a lot like the weight of the vehicle. So you can have really high horsepower, really high RAM, or really high horsepower, really high torque. But if you're towing a semi-truck, it's not going to be fast. Or you can have low horsepower, low torque, but if it's a scooter, it's going to be really fast. So I consider the iOS side of things, I consider iOS to be a very light, very efficient operating system that just doesn't require anywhere near the power to run even better. I've ran into a little bit of inconsistencies with the OnePlus 3. Voxer tends to, it's a messaging app, it tends to have inconsistencies, more failures than the iPhone. The iPhone just kind of never crashes, kind of never fails very often. And Android still is just a little flaky. Sorry, but it is. I've noticed twice while using the OnePlus on Netflix and YouTube where the audio started to not match the video a little bit and then it would correct itself. I've never seen that problem ever on an iOS device. Little things like that. But overall, the end verdict is I'm actually going to sell the iPhone. I hope that's not a mistake. And the OnePlus is now my phone. And the reason is because, yeah, I feel like it's not quite as good as the iPhone. But in some areas, it's actually better. Weight, feel, bezels, fingerprint scanner, a snappy UI that's more modern. Those are all better than the iPhone. The iPhone outperforms this phone in some areas, but not all. And the price difference is just too much for me to swallow. So as of today, I'm officially an Android guy, and the iPhone is going up for sale. That's my own personal experience with trying to make the switch. I feel pretty comfortable with that switch. When the iPhone 7 comes out in a couple months, I might be switching back. But for now, I'm going to be an Android guy. The speakers sound about the same on both. The headphone output jack is great on the Oneplus, just as good as the iPhone, which is one area Android phones have been behind. The thickness is very similar. Actually, I think it's thinner than the iPhone. It's just, I like using it overall. It's a joy to use. I feel like if they were the same price, I would probably buy the iPhone. Actually, if the iPhone just came down a couple $100 is where I think it should be priced. I think the 6 Plus versions should be $649 for 32 gigs, not $849. I feel like I'd probably stay on the iPhone side, but the fact that their pricing is going up and the competition's pricing is going down, it pulls me over to the Android world, to the dark side. Anyway, hopefully you guys like this video. I don't give a shit if you like or subscribe. Have fun. Bye.